obviously it's the first time we've talked to you since you made the decision to bring back Mike. Can you just expound on why? I mean, I don't know if you even looking up other opportunities, that you kind of float other options out at all?
Yeah, it was just overwhelmingly, I thought the best decision to have the continuity that Mike brings. When I look at the job he's done over the last 4 years, I can point to some real positives, not the least of which are his 12-win seasons. I think we certainly have made improvement in areas. I think Dak, for instance, right at a key spot there with Dak. Dak has improved since Mike has been here, and I think we can look forward to that improvement. There's more there to get in terms of Dak's improvement. Quote Mike, and the evidence points to that. And so with more to get there, more pluses on Dak, that impacts a lot of the other things we're doing right now with our decisions we're making, so it all made sense to have him back.
Did you have to talk yourself into it, or was it
no. This is not a talk yourself into it, but it obviously gives you a lot of things to consider and think about. And everybody has options, but this one I'm very comfortable with, and felt good during the year of the job that Mike was doing. Thought the team was responding well. We're all disappointed that we didn't win that Green Bay game. We had visions of a lot better than that. We all did, but there are things there that we can take forward. Noticing what's happening in the playoffs, looking at the teams that are playing. The game yesterday, or day before yesterday, San Francisco and Detroit was a good one for us to observe, look at some of the things happen there. All that stuff makes me, frankly, pleased that we've got the continuity to work with.
Mike had mentioned a conversation you all had in the week before you officially made the decision. He said it went over 3 hours. What can you share from that conversation?
Well, I don't really have specifics that I would share, but I would say that we had an opportunity to discuss every aspect, some of it cursorily, but every aspect of what we needed to work on and get better at going forward. We had a lot of areas to talk about then, because we certainly have a lot of room to improve, but we've got some outstanding players in my mind, very talented players with a really good base and a good scheme to work with on both sides of the ball.
There is value, of course, in continuity, as you said, but there's also the need to disrupt the pattern of playoff disappointment.
Yeah.
What gives you confidence that what will be done to disrupt that end of this?
Well, I know how to disrupt and understand disruption, and I think that the nature of what we do with our roster decisions, the fact that we're here looking at help, if you will, for this coming year here at the Senior Bowl, the fact that we have free agency opportunities, the fact that we've got some really substantive decisions to make on our roster as it pertains to, particularly influenced by the salary cap. That's enough disruption for me. We get through all of those decisions, there'll be a lot of disruption.
Before moving to the roster, Mike McCarthy is entering the final year of his contract.
Mm-hmm.
Is it correct that he will coach this season under that final season?
Well, no, not necessarily, but certainly he is in the final year of his contract, so he's under contract, so we didn't have to really do anything at all. And the idea of renewing a contract doesn't necessarily happen at all right after the last game. It can happen at any time. And so that's kind of a wrong signal to send, that there's not more future than just this year in pitcher. So I think that's the case. I think I'm comfortable doing it this way. I know Mike is comfortable doing it this way.
Yeah, you did it twice with Jason. I mean, there's an inherent pressure when you're in the last year of your deal. Him going to say, you comfortable with that whole environment of him going into the season the last year of his deal?
Well, I don't. I think that when you're a head coach in the NFL, or if you're frankly relying on the system the way we all do, there's pressure several places, and that's just one of them. But there's a lot of pressure, but that's part of the game.
You said you guys discussed what y'all need to do differently. What are some of the things y'all need to do differently to get a better result?
Well, I think you can look on all three phases and see that we've got room for improvement. We did some good things. I'm going to be generic when I say this, but we need to run the ball better. We need to stop the run better. I like the way that I thought Dak was excellent in his passing this year. I thought he made great decisions relative to when he did decide to use his legs. So there were a lot of pluses in that area. Do we have room to improve it with the receiving, routes, running game, blocking schemes, all of that we can improve upon? But the big thing is we all know there's room for improvement. But the thing that I would emphasize more than anything is that Dak has room for improvement, and not just the scheme around him, but Dak can improve. That's a big plus when you've been playing the game 7 years and you've, by assessment, have some room to get better in. He did this year. I expect him to do it next year and the next year.
You said next year, you bring up Dak, and last year at the Senior Bowl, Stephen, you said we want Dak to be our quarterback for the next 10 years. We want to get a contract extension. Is that still the plan for Dak to be your quarterback in the future?
Yeah.
Do a contract extension?
As it would turn out, without saying, as it turned out, our plan is you have to look holistically at the entire roster at this time, because of we've got some key players that are going to automatically move up into arguably the top 3 paid players on the team. And so, as you well know, in the NFL, 10 or 11 players make 70% of the money. And so when you address a contract, whether it be Dak's or whether it be Pollard's or whether it be Lamb's, when you address a contract, you distort the picture. The picture is holistic, and you have to look at the entire landscape. In most cases, you can't fit it all in. There's not room. And so you have to make adjustments. You do that as you move along. And so that's where we are. We've got contracts that we will be working on. When you ask me about a specific contract, you do so usually because it's out of contract. You got to address just as much the contracts you got and the adjustment in those contracts. You have to adjust people that you don't even know you have, and then you have to certainly adjust the ones that are out of contract or have imminent chance of being out of contract. So where I'm going with all of that, that's why you don't get a straight answer. It's not because there's iffiness about any player. So when you direct a question with us, and by the way, shame on us if we've just started thinking about it at the end of the season. This should have been being thought about. It has been being thought about 2 and 3 years ago. So you see where I'm coming from? So the answer is it's holistic, all contracts in regard to any player that you mentioned of what we're going to do about their contract. All contracts are in the same boat. We're looking at all of them.
So just, I'm sorry, but just to clarify, you were very unequivocal about Dak.
I'm unequivocal about it right now.
Okay.
I'm unequivocal about it right now. We've got a lot of contract work to do. Okay, I'm equivocal about all of the contracts. I can be unequivocal about all the contracts. We're going to have to adjust all contracts or to get as many of the very players that you could ask me about singly under the contract. So I'm really trying to give you a straight answer. I won't be addressing at any time here one contract, one player at all. That is not, let me emphasize, and I'm in a plural, that is not in any way being iffy about any player that we've got, whether it be Lamb, Parsons, Prescott, Smith, you name them. That's not being unequivocal. Okay, the facts are that it's obvious who your top players are. It's obvious who the players we want back would be. Obvious. It's very obvious here in my mind. And so anything I've said, like last year, I said we see a picture of him going forward for many years. That's live and well. Yes, we sure do. But we've got a lot of contracts to address.
Yeah, because the only reason we talk about him is because it's cap, $59 million cap figure. It impacts what you can do with other guys. You have to decide.
But for me to make an answer that you want to hear, I have to say we've got a lot of work to do on every one of these guys' contracts. And if you don't get it worked out on certain contracts, it would change this answer.
Where does the work
Change this answer.
Where does the work start on Dak's contract?
We've have been doing a lot of the work we do for the last 2 years.
When you look at roster turnover,
In other words, there's been a lot of work done on. We didn't just get here and land here after we got beat by Green Bay. Well, I'm not trying to be trite, but what we did regarding our big challenge in this offseason in terms of making all of what we can do work under the cap, that's work's been going on for years. There's not one figure or one number or one set of circumstances that I'll consider or will be looking at that I wasn't thinking about this time last year. Not one.
we talk about finding a need for disruption. When you look at roster turnover, over a quarter of the active players from this past season are going to be free agents. Do you expect free agency to kind of be an area where you could disrupt some things?
Again, I don't want to use the word disruptive because I think the plan would be, it would be disruptive to not do a free agent as far as what we did last year. I think you could anticipate us having some influence here and being involved in some free agents, subject to if the right free agent we can get under the right contract.
Okay. Is there a thought process of going all in? I mean, you guys have tried to win and plan for the future. Is there any change of, hey, we need to go all in this year? Is there any focus or thought process on putting all the chips in to put a win on the field, including what you do with free agency?
I would anticipate, with looking ahead at our key contracts that we'd like to address, we'll be all in. I would anticipate we'll be all in at the end of this year. So when you say, is there any thought, I think we'll strain our, we'll push the hell out of it.
Okay. Is that doing something differently than you had in the past in that respect?
Well, it will be, it will be going all in on different people than you've done in the past.
Okay.
We'll be going all in. We've seen some things out of some of the players that we want to be all in on. And yes, I would say that you will see us this coming year not building for the future.
Okay.
Is the best way I don't say it.
Okay.
And that ought to answer a lot of questions.
Okay.
There's a theoretical world where not only Mike is in the final season of his contract this year, but Dak is too. Are you comfortable with that potential, or do you actively want to avoid a situation in which both of those prominent figures are in the final year of their deal?
Okay, well, to answer your question, but I don't think of it as they have simultaneous last years. That I understand your question, and certainly that's accurate, but I don't think about it that way at all. As either one of them are tied together, their last years. I don't think about that. That won't influence me. if I can answer that question right now. Am I aware that you could say they're both in their last year? Ironically, we didn't necessarily plan it that way, but it won't be a factor in any decision I make.
Just for the sake of clarity, you may not want to answer it because it's a specific player question, but do you want to sign Dak to a contract extension this year?
Well, let's be real clear. Let's be real clear. I don't even want to answer the question, okay. I would let everybody say, you can just assume that. You can just assume that right there. What I'm really saying is, I'm not going to be discussing any part of it because it looks like that's an issue, okay, when it's not. It's the entire thing and the balancing of the entire thing. And we're going to have to go get some people that are out of contract that you could ask the question. Can we assume that Martin's here? Can we assume that any of these guys are here? Well, you can sure assume it. And so that's what I'm saying. It's looking like that you might have to have a consideration when, in fact, I'm considering every player we got's contract and having to adjust maybe before it's over a high percentage of the contracts. Because what's happened, let me be real clear, is because you have such a group of high-profile players, you're having to really put more an emphasis on your entire salary cap available room. Okay, because you're well aware, and I know that you are trying to address the point that between Parsons, Lamb, Dak, and others, that you're going to be putting some things in place that are pretty impactful down the line.
Especially with the cap, because you're over the cap right now,
does that make sense? What I'm trying to say, it is wrong to go to any contract and say, well, is that not an emphasis point of a contract for you? Because it's wrong. That's not right. It's the entire, how we balance the entire, able to get it all or get as much of it as we can under the wire.
Yeah, but you're over the cap right now. I guess that's why his is a port because it's a $59 million hit.
Okay,
And
but because we're over the cap, you know we can't stay like this.
Right. So you have to do something right.
Okay, and so if you said, well, are you interested in signing Dak and what have you and being that much more over the cap? Are you interested in signing Lamb and being that much more over the cap? Okay, you've got to look at everything. You've got to look at everything. And so I won't be, and I bet you that Stephen won't be,
right,
sitting down there and recognizing, well, you've got this situation with Lamb's contract, you got this situation with Parsons. We won't be doing that because that's the wrong look right now. We've got to see how much we can get under the cap. So it's a holistic look, more so than ever in a year we've had.
Do you feel like there's an urgency to get the answers to those cap questions before free agency starts? Or
No, there's not. There is not. You're going to be living with a lot of dangling participles here.
How long did it take you to get over the Green Bay loss?
Am I making sense?
Yes.
And I specifically wanted to make this point with y'all. It's actually a misrepresentation to ask about any one player's contract.
Yeah.
That's not the issue here.
Right. And I guess, and again, I just opposed to last year, you were very...
Dak has done nothing to change my mind of any promise for the future. I think I said in the deal that we'd go as far as Dak takes us in the playoffs. Remember that?
Right.
We'd go as far as Dak takes us.
Right.
How do you feel you played?
And that's how far we went.
Right. So.
Okay, so my point is that doesn't change a thing. We'll go as far as Dak takes us.
How do you feel you played against Green Bay? You may have just said it there, but how do you feel you performed against the Packers?
Well, I think that we, as a team, laid an egg. And that's not specifically, I want to say it and respond that way. And you can start here, and I'm not trying to be magnanimous or anything, but you can start here and you can go all the way down the line that was a bad day for us, and manifests and created a lot of scrutiny on days long before that and long after that. That's what kind of day it was, and so it'll be an impactful day. We'll do things that honor the fact that we didn't play well against the Packers.
And then you said it starts with you, and you're not trying to be magnificent with that statement, but inherently with that, you ask yourself, what can I do differently?
That's right, and that's what I do. That's what I do. What you have to change when you work for yourself is you have to change what's in the mirror. And you have to do that, and you have to make those changes, and you have to assess, and you just do it. I have done it for umpteen years in my career, and I have changed, and I do change, and I will do some things differently this year. I'm not for sure what they're going to be for sure, but I'll do some things differently.
What's your thinking in terms of how, without knowing maybe all the answers, that reflection in the mirror will change this year?
Mm-hmm. What?
How? Well, you mentioned looking in the mirror and making changes. How does your reflection change this year moving forward with following that loss in Green Bay?
A lot of what I do is change who I write checks to. Okay, right there. And in doing that, that's the ultimate in accountability. So someone asks if you hold people accountable. When you write the check, you're holding somebody accountable, and it manifests itself right there. So we'll be looking specifically at some of the things we're doing at every point, and we'll be looking at such things as how we manage the cap, and where we're putting the point of emphasis, less spreading it out more, having less emphasis on. The average around the league is 10 or 12 players get 70% of the money. San Francisco does a great job of spreading it around players, and 2 or 3 don't get the money. They do a good job. Now, part of that is where they are in the life of the time of the quarterback. But they've had other quarterbacks. So I look at all teams. I study all teams hard, and the ones that are having success. And so my point is, you would expect someone to really zero in and recognize that not Mike hadn't had the years I've had of not going to the advancing in the playoffs. Mike McCarthy had. He's actually has a real good record in the playoffs. And of course, he has a Super Bowl, and I've gotten to be a part of 3. But the point is, I look at and recognize that Mike's issues and my issues aren't the same. My issues and Dak's issues aren't the same, okay? Dak's issues on the Cowboys are just 7 years of the Cowboys. And Mike's are only 4 of the Cowboys. I've got longer issues, so I've got more to look at. When I go back, I recognize that. I do, very much. But what the mistake has been is if you thought there weren't adjustments made over the last 30 years. Okay? And obviously, since you don't get to hold that Lombardi trophy up, there's very few of them that are right. And it isn't necessarily right. It's a step forward to be holding the conference championship trophy up and not holding the Super Bowl trophy up. But so all of those things go through my mind, but there's nobody that's on any more of a incentive plan as far as responding to it than I am.
What do you tell fans? Why should fans believe this year will be different?
Well,
it seems like the base is disillusioned and fired up and upset as ever.
Yes. What I would say is, I hope it's not different going into the first playoff game where we've got the 2nd seed. I hope it's not different at all to that point where we got the 2nd seed. Okay, now let's talk about how we might make it different against when we play in that game and get a win. Okay? We need to stop the run better. And we need to be more physical, and we need to run better. Be specific. We need to do those kinds of things more. And so my point is, I look at that, and I look at. I thought we made a pretty good move 4 years ago when we hired Mike McCarthy, and he's had some great in-season success. Now he's come up short three times and advanced us in the playoff. Okay, but I like the fact that he's hanging around the rim, and I like what the team has done to hang around the rim. So I think what the answer that I would have is that I'm aware that we're hanging around the rim. We're not getting the ball in, but we're hanging around the rim. Let's don't discount hanging around the rim and where we are right now with the players we've got. And I'm thinking about it from the whole look. The real question is I'm not doing what I was doing 30 years ago. I'm not doing what I was doing 20 years ago on a personal basis. I think about a lot of things differently. That's important because if I were doing the very same things over the last 30 years, 20 years, okay, then unless you looked at the whole report card, the report card you're seeing about winning in the playoffs, I don't like. There's some other parts of the report card that you don't have privy to that you might like.
How long did it take you to get over this loss? You talked Cotton and Constable and one of the biggest losses. How long did it take you? And did you have to resist being rash and doing something rash out of anger or frustration?
Well, I didn't have to resist doing anything as to the decisions that we've made,
Okay.
and that was going forward with Mike.
Okay.
I did let a few days go by. But Mike's decision to continue coaching, that decision for me was pretty compelling.
Okay.
He not deserved anything. Not deserved is the word for it. We need to benefit from what he's done well, and we're better off riding with it now than we would be changing. Obviously, or I would have changed.
Right. You any concern about Dan Quinn and what would you do if he's gone? And what is the plan?
Well,
Dan Quinn gets a job.
He's an outstanding coach, and we have benefited from Dan, and we'll see where it goes. I don't want to comment other than the fact that we think he's outstanding.